Now we're moving into disaster recovery, and we're going to talk a little bit about what disaster recovery means, how it fits in this whole kind of continuum between incident response and business continuity, and then talk about two different classifications of disaster recovery plans. So first thing, let's start with the definition again. We're talking about preparing for and recovering from a disaster. It's a little bit circular, and it's implied that it's at the same facility. You're not having to move locations based on this. NIST, which is the National Institute for Standards and Technology, has 7 steps in building one of these. And again, these should look a little bit familiar because we've talked about them in other parts of contingency planning. First, you've got to have a policy statement, typically from an executive. Second, you want to go back and review your business impact analysis and to make sure that you're addressing the highest probability threats, the most dangerous threats. Look at what are some preventing controls that can manage your risk or limit your risk. Look at some recovery strategies, then actually build the plan. We got to test it, train people on it, then actually execute it. Again, paper is wonderful. People actually changing their behavior is better. And then finally, how are you going to keep this plan up to date and maintain it over time? So kind of given this overview, let's now look at some of the components. Again, these should look very familiar to you and link back to those kind of 7 steps. You're going to have a purpose and a scope. That purpose typically is from an executive. That scope gives you your left and right boundaries of what you can do. Roles and responsibilities, identify people, give them bulleted tasks to do. Start each of those bullets with a action verb, and you've got a great section on roles and responsibilities. Talk about the resource requirements and training requirements with this. How are you going to do exercises and train folks? If people have never done this and they're trying to read the plan in the middle of a disaster, probably not very helpful. And then what's the maintenance of this plan? How often do you need to go back and update the plan over time? Let's now move down and talk a little bit about some classifications. There are really 2 big ones. The first one is a rapid onset disaster. You have an attack on a building, you have a tornado or a hurricane come through. In that particular case, you have to have a plan that is as agile as that type of a disaster. The second is where you have something like drought. That is a slow onset. If you're a farmer, it's particularly critical to your success. So you want to plan for it, but you do have more time. You have the opportunity to sense the environment and know what's going on and to build some decision points into your plan so that you're making a decision with enough time for that decision to take effect in enough time to mitigate the risk. And so rapid onset and slow onset are going to be the 2 big types of categories. And then finally, a couple of just thoughts on disaster recovery to kind of help you down that path. First of all, some clear roles and responsibilities associated with disaster recovery. And I've said it a couple of times, I'll say it again. Make sure that section clearly identifies the people involved, clearly identify not using passive voice, but active voice verbs of what those people are supposed to do and how they interact with each other. Alert rosters and notification of key personnel is going to be important. Keeping that up to date on a periodic basis, going to be important. Establishing some priorities, because when one disaster occurs, several other disasters may be occurring at the same time. Sounds horrible, but it's just what happens. And so you have to have some prioritization for folks to know what to do. Have those procedures in place, and those procedures need to be written down, not in someone's head. Actively solicit steps to mitigate the risk and control the risk and have some alternatives. You know, the old saying is the best of plans does not survive contact with the enemy. And so what you're going to have to do is adapt over time and make sure that you've thought through some of the alternatives associated with a disaster scenario. All right, well, this concludes this short video on disaster recovery Planning, it talked about the scope of the document, how you build the document, who's involved, the two different categories of a rapid onset and slow onset, and then some kind of tips to help you through the process of building a disaster recovery plan.